Would you believe me if I told you that an app that had less than 5,000 downloads generated this amount of money? $65,000. Now, here's the thing. I did it by leveraging someone's existing audience, by optimizing and understanding their audience and building an app and offering them a solution. Only 5,000 people needed to check out the app, and I generated $65,000. It doesn't stop there. I built another app, 10K MR in 3 months, an AI accounting tool. I've been building apps for Toozer, and I'm currently working on 2 more apps in the pipeline, a phishing app and an AI sales analytics software. Now, here's the thing, again, everyone thinks that they need to be building that $1 million app, $2 million a month Cal AI, but most people can't even get to the 0.001, the 1% of the 1%. Just look at how much that is, $2,000 a month. But if you actually want the in-depth system and a tailored response on how you should go about your game plan for building a successful app to generate your first 1,000 MRR, $1,000 a month, book a call with me and I'll explain to you how the process works and I'll help you be successful in building apps that actually generate revenue. Thank you. Welcome to the third video of the introduction module. Systems are greater than luck, and arguably say this is, if not the most important video of the introduction module. If you skip past the first two, please watch and listen to the end on this one. I cannot stress this enough. Systems is greater than luck. Most people think that they have a great idea and that they can't do it themselves. As I covered in my previous lesson, the reason why everybody fails is because they lack the understanding that there are steps in this goal. When you build an app, you are preparing for the Super Bowl being the release on the App Store, the ability to acquire users. Everything you do needs to be done with precision and accurately, definitively done with a purpose. So, systems are greater than luck. I'll give you an explanation. Most people think like this. I have a cool idea. I build an app for 4 months. I ship it, and then they burn out. We often see people keep in building, but what they fail to realize is that when you have an idea, you simply need to deliver it to the person so they can use it. That's the end goal. The end goal is for somebody to use your product. Whether or not they will pay for it, that is up for question. But if you cannot do the bare minimum, then why are you even doing this at all? The reason why people quit, and the reason why people don't even follow the system and don't even know what to do is because they actually don't even know what to do at all. How it should actually work in a more higher level standard is I have a cool idea, spend 1 week building out, maybe even shorter, do outreach to 100 people with my idea in mind, and I receive feedback, I implement feedback, I reach back out, and I progress. You need to be doing something called dopamine maxing, especially when it comes to building and shipping apps. Something that requires many different steps, and as I will be covering in the not only design flows, right, and the development phases, there's a lot of steps here. And of course, as I mentioned, it's a lot easier with AI coding. Everyone can do it. You need to be optimizing every single step to remove the most amount of friction as much as possible. And the best way to do that is to decrease the amount of time you spend on doing something, and increase the amount of time optimizing and shipping and going through the whole development and distribution cycle as fast as possible. So, dopamine drives us. Every time you release something, every time you improve, every time you go through that development cycle of the distribution, instead of just doing all this, you're simply incrementally increasing towards success. Whereas if you were to be this typical person, 95% of the people who just go up here, oh, I have a cool idea, and then once you're ready to ship, it does not go up. You are at the same point because you have not even shipped anything at all. It's this idea of less is more, and that's all. So, systems is greater than luck. understand that there is a part to everything, especially in this machine. All right, so in this part here, after you understand that systems are greater than luck, I want to give you a bit more explanation. Again, we want to keep on increasing our dope, especially when it comes to this business, this app, because I don't want to see you in building and there's no shipping, there's no outreach. I use something called the funnel method when it comes to identifying a problem and understanding that before I knew it wasn't, I had a cool idea. It was more of I knew it would work. I strongly believe everyone here, if you want a 100% guaranteed way of building an app that generates revenue, you need to utilize your existing connections. If you can't utilize your existing connections, then you need to come up with an idea. Those are the two main things. Well, I had an existing connection. I'll mention how I did the outreach not only with this person, but as my earlier video showed with Fishing with Guy, they both have platforms, they both have audiences. And before I end this video on a note, I'm going to give you a little bit of bonus information. Everything brand placement. In short words, what is brand placement? Well, if I were to be a company, right, and I wanted to hire somebody for their product, I want to make sure that that person is the best fit for my product. Well, let's switch that around. For example, what if the person, or let's say you had an audience that was primarily in fitness and someone wanted to work with you? They owned a workout clothing company. Well, they want to specifically work with people who are workout influencers, right? Because that's where their audience is. Well, let's take it a step deeper. You do that, and let's say this was the company. This is the person. The amount of people that they capture, ideally, they would want everybody in their audience, right? Well, let's say out of all of these people, they were only able to capture this much. That's because that product is not directly associated with her brand. Now, when you go down into a deeper level of that person's brand and you amplify the one thing that they've blown up for, that they've grown for, and you use that to your advantage. For example, if this person, Kenzie Vance, decided to start a clothing company, right? People would support her, but it won't be as much as they maximize. That's not the reason why people followed her. It's because of the workouts. That's literally it. Why do people follow you? Why do people are watching this content, right? It's the same concept as if a meme page started a clothing company. This was popular back then, right? You can make a little bit of money, but you're not maximizing the value. Maybe you make $1,000 out of 200,000 people. And so that's very important to know that if you make the wrong decision when it comes to having proper app and brand placement, not only with an app, right? If I built an app that was just a generalized workout app and it was affiliation with Kenzie Vance, it would not have made the revenue it had made. But now that it's tied directly to her brand, that is tied directly to who she is, I knew for a fact that if I just simply enhanced her brand and integrated it within the app itself, it would be guaranteed revenue. Because I already seen that the coaching, she already does coaching, she already does ebooks. All right, let's amplify what she already has and utilize, build an app around it. It's the same process. Most people stuck with, I have a cool idea, you have a cool idea. Well, if it's already existing, it's already working out there, you should already feel like you're late to the race. My thought process behind the whole entire thing here was that I got to build this as fast as possible. And in general, here are the steps that typically people would go through. Identify painkiller problem. Most people don't realize they have a problem until they see it in their face. They didn't realize that they needed an app until they started using it. The problem is that people had a hard time tracking their workouts. You need to be researching their competitors. For example, in this situation, their competitor was for the app, I believe it was called Buff Bunny. And I knew, see, Buff Bunny app, Grounds app. So it was literally the competitor, so I copied what they did and fit it within her audience. Define your differentiator. One clear sentence, unlike X, we Y. Now for her and this person right here is that the clear difference is that She is the primary source of information, not a whole bunch of people. People are following for her. Same concept as if I were to build an app for, let's say, Andrew Huberman. I wouldn't build a generalized dopamine reset app, right? It would be an app, it would be Andrew Huberman's app. Create 3 personas. So probably shouldn't put this here, but it is the idea of understanding your customers to the fullest potential. Understand why they're there and how they got there so that you can have a clear definition of what your app is about. You don't want just anybody using your app. You want your audience using the app. And then UI and UX and the MVP features are, explanatory. You want to be able to have a design that feels like what they're looking for. If I made this app a very boring, non-girly app, it would not have done well. And then also your MVP features. I'm going to be covering these 2 things of design and development in these 2 modules here, but that is a sample of how having a system is better than just like winging it, because there is no winging it. Sure, there's faith, but there is numbers to this game, and understanding the why is very important. All right, so enough talking. Let's actually dive into the system. So I've outlined pretty much each of the important things that really goes into not only, this is what I mentioned earlier, leveraging dopamine loading is what I would call it. And you need to be maximizing the feedback of 0 to 100 of that loop, reducing friction on each and every single step here. So again, typically people would have an idea, they would have a problem that people were facing with, or as I mentioned in other sections, you found an idea of where I covered either horizontal or vertical integration. These apps make money because they solve a problem. So you have an idea horizontally, vertically, wherever you found that idea from. Next, you need to research competitors. The reason being, every single time you want to see an app, you need to see, how they're doing it, why they're successful. And that's going to help you leverage and figure out the fulfillment on the 50% of the side of things, like how I mentioned down here. 50% development, 50% marketing, right? So once you research competitors, you need to define a differentiator. This is what I was talking about earlier when it comes to vertical versus horizontal integration of picking an idea. So vertical, you want to be able to pivot, take the change the narrative of the main idea. For example, the catch rap makes 5K. They used to make 40K a month, but now they make 5K. And then a horizontal integration would be taking the exact same narrative and improving onto it, changing it, switching it up in your own words. Now, create user personas. This is what I was talking about earlier. When I was covering over this app, I wanted to understand the persona of every single bit of her audience. These are people following her simply because she has good workout advice. They want her programs, they want her coaching. So I built a workout app specific for that. I didn't build a generalized workout app for women. I didn't build I could have done something super down and simple, but hitting hard on the target is what, creates user growth, and what gets you the most amount of value and the least amount of effort is understanding your customers the best way. Designing a familiar UI. I'm going to cover this in this module here, but essentially what you're going to be doing is going on like mobbin.com to find inspirations for apps that are working out there, or you can just download it on your phone and taking screenshots. But the UI plays a good role in the user experience and making sure that they like the app that they're using. Outline the MVP features, right? When I started building this workout app, there are so many different things I needed to do, but the one main thing that I did make sure to stay focused on was, how can I deliver the product as fast as possible? And the best way to go about it is utilize the Feynman technique, which is the idea, or not the Feynman technique. Well, I guess it's called Pomodoro or time boxing. And it is the ability to, within a certain time frame, have to deliver something. The best example of this is going to be hackathons. They're a perfect example. You only have one night to deliver something, and you have to showcase results. So you have the MVP features and the tech stack. Of course, I'm going to cover that in the development phase of something simple that you can use to build and ship fast. But so the tech stack is pretty simple. You're going to want to use MCPs on this section right here. In short words, MCPs. What an MCP is, allows you to perform complex tasks through LLM prompting. Example, database schemas and creations done through the prompt of build me a backend. Something simple like that. The LLM knows to create and do things, and so that goes into making sure we decrease the amount of friction on each and every single step. Build a clickable prototype or simple build. So this is what I was talking about, Lovable and all that. These websites, they all have a rule in place. I made a video covering about the idea that each tool has its pros and cons. The best pro about a tool is the ability to just build something out of something, right? I just be like, I need a website for a medical company or something like that. And it builds out right away instead of just having the idea of, I don't know, tools like this, like Lovable, Bolt New. They do all of these. They do the main thing of outlining the MVP features. They have the tech stack already done for you, and then you just simply need a prompt. And so here, the ability to use, easy to use, something simple, because again, on the first phase of getting feedback, we don't even honestly, you do need a back end, but even with the back end, it's just super simple to build nowadays. So why not just throw it in there? On the next step of the build phase, you want to set up the environment, which these tools like AI coding and Lovable all do for you. In short term, I'll cover a couple of things. For example, deployment with tools like Cursor. You're going to want to use things like Vercel to deploy, or Render to deploy a web service. And then again, if you're going to be using the AI coding tool, you can just Lovable Cloud or any tool, AI coding website. So if you don't know what a web service is, it's essentially your APIs, and the Vercel is where you actually want to host the website. I'll be covering that more in detail on the build section as well, so you have a better understanding on the technical side. Next thing is going to be implementing authentication. This goes along with the build phase, gamification, polishing the UI, preparing assets, setting up the test flight, test installs, notification. So in this section here, honestly, this doesn't really apply. This only applies to things that would be like a viral app. Apps that would be like Cali Eye, those are gamified, because you take a picture, you see your calories. It's like a short thing of doping. Oh, I just did this. Then you have tracking in there. So it's a bit of a game, but honestly, you don't need this. But so after you have the UI and everything's coming together, all of this is really done almost instantly with your AI coding. So you'll see here how I do the process in the design development stage again. And here, typically all of this would be completed by Lovable or any AI coding website as well. One of the most annoying things you can do when publishing an app is setting up the test flight and doing internal testing. So I'll cover that in the next section. Xcode, go here. You gotta have that. If you need to have a MacBook if you want to do Apple apps. And so making sure, even right here, if I go to Xcode, it'll probably have an app open. Yeah, I do. And anytime I want to build the app, I got to go to product. I got to click on archive, and then let me see if I can just show you some. Is it this one? Look at this build. If I want to distribute it, and you go to the App Store Connect. And even then, I have to wait for developer testing and test flight. I have to wait for someone at Apple to review it. See, test flight build 90%, or wait 24, 48 hours for my build to be received so that Apple can approve the app. So another layer of friction, right? Now you have installs. Well, where do you get these people? That's not even mentioning the organic growth, right? Maybe one of the best things that I've heard in a while is what Hormozy said. You always have people to sell to. How to get your first customers. The easiest is your closest people to you, family. The second layer would be your friends. Your third layer would be colleagues and people you love. Fourth layer of hardest is going to be just outreach, plain outreach. You have 3 separate layers that you haven't tried yet, and 3 different people. Now, typically, honestly, all this is easy just to get users. Just be like, hey, can you try my app out? But that's another layer. And once you have that app on test flight, just for people to test out, now you have to wait for testers. Fully functional version 1 built. So I haven't mentioned it here, but one of the most important things that I do is, it's here in the feedback loop, is to actually collect user feedback. You want to use something like Discord or something to actually have a community of people. Even though you may have 10,000 users in the app, having 300 strong people just talking to you constantly of what to fix is extremely important. And now we want to go to this distribution, just like I showed you on Xcode. You submit it to the App Store. You got to wait for the review to happen. You got to take screenshots of the app. Like if I go to here, developer, Apple, for example, this app that I was working on recently, you got to have screenshots ready. And it even takes a longer time if you're going to publish it to the App Store. And once you submit it to the App Store, you got to wait for it. You upload your screenshots. You have to here text. Now we got to go to organic growth. So now, even after doing all of this is what I mean by you have to lessen the amount of friction that you have on every single step that you're facing. And you need to just drive yourself to reach the end. Every single time you finish this loop right here, it's an increase of dopamine on yourself in this business as well to understand the positive feedback or negative feedback. You need to know and go through this full cycle to realize if you have a winning product or not. And so it's really important that you do this as fast as possible so that you can either know when to quit or know when to get at it. The best analogy I can give for this is like mining for gold. Maybe you hit some coal, don't mine the coal. The second you find some gold, enhance it, amplify it. If you need to use your route for finding gold, go the horizontal route, right? Copy an already existing app, tweak it a little bit so that people don't get too confused. If you want to be a little bit more riskier, go the vertical route. Take an existing idea, change the narrative, and then boom, you have two winning methods of finding good ideas. So organic growth, influencer marketing, content strategy, Reddit strategy, community building, competitor analysis. Community building is leveraging people's audiences, like how I did with Tuzer, like how I did with Kenzie Bands, how I did with the fishing community, just like how I did with the sales app that I was building, leveraging an existing business model and enhancing it with apps. The Reddit strategy, it's pretty simple. I'll do it in a bonus video of how to actually go about it. But let me find the Reddit post I made. When I started 2 years ago, I'm wanting to get some clients. And so I figured the best way to go about it was just post it on Reddit and see if I can get anybody. Out of 100,000 views, I believe I got like 5 extra clients a month from this. And the best way to do that is just post about your app, talk about it, go into different communities and just discuss it. Don't be very straightforward and be like, try out my app. Be like this. I talked about a story. People hate movies with a bad ending. When you're doing long form content, when you're doing LinkedIn posts, when you're doing Reddit posts, make it a story, make it a thing people really want to listen to. I did this, I got 100,000 views, I got 26 views here. I am definitely, probably these two posts alone, maybe around 50,000. So for my MVP agency at the time. Again, shift the narrative, be vertical, apply the same strategy, but for your app. Content strategies are going to be starting, let's say, multiple TikTok accounts, having different phones for every single account and doing personal videos, posting about them and seeing and looking and analyzing your competitors and seeing, maybe write this down for you. So content strategy in simple terms, look at competitor videos that blew them up, copy the winning format and rinse and repeat. So for example, like the cat trap TikTok. If I just look this up, like these videos here of what blew them up to 40 million or 40K a month, that's an example of following a winning strategy, right? And so if for them, it can work for you. You just need to stay within that type of video. So, okay. Next thing is going to be influencer marketing. So unlike community building where you build a platform based off of their audience, influencer marketing is where you pay someone to promote videos for you. Now, how do you do that? I'll cover that in my bonus videos on this here. Do I have it down here? Yeah, on influencer outreach and contracts. So this requires outreach and contracts, just like how I mentioned here. Typically, there's around, let me look it up. How many influencers are there with above 20K followers? 20,000, so 30 to 50 million. Man, 22% of Instagram, 20,000, 100,000 followers. 20 million, I don't know. This seems like a really big number. Let's just say 10 million people, right? And so 10 million people with above with more than, let's say, 20K followers. That's a lot of people. So you only need to send 100 DMs a day for a partnership or partner for a contract. And I'll send you, in this video, I'll cover like how to send a cut. Essentially, these people will post your app in their style to promote your app. For example, a big one right now that was happening with all of these calorie AI apps is it would target people. Let's see if I can, Cal AI alternatives. They would like target these fitness influencers. They'd be like, promote your app, or promote our app, just snapping up your food and be like, use this app or something like that. And we'll pay you like $10,000, You don't want to pay 10,000, but essentially that's how it works. You use people's followings who align with their branding a little bit with your app, similar to how like a Young LA does. They partner up with people, they get signed. Except, we're just paying. Some of the basic pay structures for this is either fixed, like $300 for 5 videos, pay on performance. So like $200 a month, just how like the side shift, and then performance like $1 per 1K views or something like that. I'll show you how to utilize side shift as well. If you don't know what side shift is, you can hire people, UGC creators to promote your app, and there's a whole strategy behind that as well. So competitor analysis, you can think about this as like stealing what was working done. And one of the ways to leverage like the people that didn't like your app is to do like alternatives to Social Blade, to Loom, like this video. See? So you can see if someone says Loom alternatives, you can go in the comments and be like, use this app or something like that. But essentially, you want to be here. You want to be the alternative to the product that you're building. So once you do that, one of the best ways is to funnel people like within the app. You'd be like, now I have a community feature built in within some of the apps, but one of the things I always do is join here or X. Like they join it, something like that. The same way how there's a catcher Discord, I believe, this one. But yeah, having a group of people within your app, collect feedback from these channels of growth is important, so that you can get like a more personal message how the app is doing. So analyzing your retention and downloads is important to note that even when you're starting out, it doesn't matter if you have a crappy app or a good app, someone's always going to have impressions. Impressions lead to downloads. Now there's even more than, right? If I go in the app store as a person, let's say I watch a video and then I type in food or something, like, let's say, then and I see and it's just not looking appealing to me, and I just drop off. Maybe that's an issue. Maybe we need to optimize it. Maybe we need to put a video in the first thing to make it look better. But essentially, there's so many different variables that can increase or success, and that's just one of them. And so analyzing the data of the user to impressions to download is very important. Now, after all of this, you should decide whether to pivot or to scale. Okay, and this is important. Everyone's downloading your app, like how I mentioned here. You need to understand, should I just keep going or should I, quit? Are people liking it? Are people in my community liking it, or are they not? And so even after all that, let's say you do decide to grow, then you build the features, you launch the update, again, collect the user feedback, improve the features, create content about the updates, so on and so on. This is pretty much what I would call a higher level overview of the development cycle. Now, each of these has like little stems of things you should be doing for growth, but it's important that you can get from 0 to 100 as fast as possible. So yeah, that's what I mean. Systems are greater than growth. That is all for this module. And in the next one, we're going to be covering, let's see here, finding problems and doing some validation.